What have I got? Stars. Gaming's not just a hobby. Gaming's a way of life, a drug, an addiction. And this is the extra content to keep you moving. This is your Day 2 update.
What's up, everybody? Hulking Yoda here with Linking Sponge, and we're here to bring you our final thoughts on our Game of the Year of 2018, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
How can a child save us all if he's sentenced to die? Tell me, Nikolaos. Tell me before you let our son go.
Those of you that have been following us, you've probably heard our first 22 with Day 2 episode that we did for Odyssey way back in October, where we both played at least 22 hours cumulatively between ourselves. And we gave you guys our initial thoughts, being that we knew that the game was massive and would take us at least 100 hours each to complete for a final review. So with that being said, this would be a little bit different than a normal as a review, and that since we did spend so much time going into detail of the graphics and sound, etc., in our previous episode, this episode will be us focusing on how the game held up over the 3 months that followed those initial thoughts, as well as specifically how we felt the story, character arcs, and the world of Greece held up for that duration. Can you listeners guess how many cumulative hours we spent to fully complete the game? Find out at the end of the episode, as well as what our review scores will be.
You carry the blade of Leonidas. Act like it.
All right, guys, so to start, I'm just going to jump right in and say my completion time for the base game, which when I say the base game, I mean everything that was within the game that was not DLC. Not any kind of extra content, whatever you can get on the basic disc or initial download of the game. For me, I clocked in at 225 hours. That is correct. 225 hours. Now, when you do add in time that was spent for some of the Lost Tales of Greece, which are extra quests that you get every couple weeks, they release some of them, and the Legacy of the First Blade, which is the first major story arc for the game that was across, at this point in the time, was 2 episodes. You add another 15 hours to that time. So 240 hours to do up to that point what I had done within the game. So that is just insane. It actually pretty much tied the most time I had ever spent in a single game, which was with Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And that was Witcher 3, the base game, plus the 2 expansions that came after its release. So just a massive, massive game. But you know what? I loved every second of that 240 hours. In my opinion, throughout the game, the story just kept continuing to get better and better. There were choices that you made for certain family members and certain major characters. When you add in characters like Phoebe and Marcos and Alcibiades and the historical figures that you met throughout the course of the game, Barnabas, your right-hand man on your ship, all these characters, man, they were amazing characters. They had major amazing arcs to them, and there was just so many different choices that you make throughout the game that just made you appreciate these characters even more. Side quests and side characters were just so well done the entire game. I mean, there was never a point where I came across side quests that just felt like they were old school side quests that you would expect to find in every game back in the day, where it was like, hey, collect 10 oysters for me. It was just so much more to it than that. And most of them they all had pretty much amazing, engaging stories that really kind of just left a mark on you. The lore of the ones who came before, from the overall Assassin's Creed franchise storyline of those that race of beings, the lore that they added to within this game and expanded upon was very interesting to me. I loved all the details they added to that. The Cult of Cosmos alone, man. I don't know, Mike, how you felt, dude, but the Cult of Cosmos, I just thought they were it was so well done and well thought out. And I love searching down cult members throughout the course of the game. The level of detail that Ubisoft put into each cult member. Each cult member you can go into and within the game in the main menu and go to the cultist tab. And each cultist has kind of like a little tiny paragraph that you can read that gives kind of a backstory for them. And it was actually, in my opinion, I thought it was really cool. They didn't have to put those details in there, and they did. The mercenaries in the game. The mercenaries are really just kind of beefed up regular enemies, but they each had their own individual paragraph of backstory. And it was just that attention to detail and that extra TLC that the developers put into the game and the game world that I just thought was an amazing thing, and that you don't see in every game experience that you play. The importance of lineage within this franchise, within the Assassin's Creed franchise, that I felt that it was re-emphasized within this game, and what it really means to pass on your legacy from generation to generation. It was really well done. I loved it. I loved that attention to detail. I talked to you guys in great detail about my love for the graphics in our first 22 episode, and I just felt that the awe and the beauty that I felt for the graphics in the beginning, I felt that it held up the entire 3 months that I played the game. There was even 3 months in, 100, 150, 200 hours, I was still coming across sequences and areas and moments where I would just stop and be like, man, this game is beautiful. And just constantly taking screenshots right up until the very end of the game. The gameplay itself was very consistent. It never dulled for me at all over 200 hours of playing. Whether I was sneaking through a fort, taking enemies out silently one by one, or participating in giant conquest battles, and whether I was fighting for Sparta or Athens to defend or take over the land, taking on six ships at once out in the open sea, hunting down mercenaries and cultists, or just exploring an underwater cavern or a damp, dark cave. I mean, my sense of adventure and fun never wavered in this experience. It was just consistent, and that's the best word I can use to describe this game for me, was consistency. It never wavered for me. The level cap, it was increased to 75 before I finished the main game. So I was able to maintain that sense of progression that you get every time that you level up throughout my entire playthrough, which I really appreciated, because in Origins, I actually reached the level cap before finishing the game. And it was pretty soon after, though, that they did add that level cap increase. But it's still something about seeing that progression of experience, that bar increasing, that really adds something to that sense of progression. So, I love the way that they handled the mystical creatures within the lore of Greece, and within the lore of the franchise. And each mystical creature, in my opinion, like the storyline that they set up behind them, they each had their own kind of unique scenario when you encountered them. And I thought they all had a distinct feel to them, not just in the areas that they were in, but also as well as how you interacted with them. I just thought it was really cool stuff and really well done, man. And, I really appreciated the humor in a lot of the interactions with NPCs and your companions. The dialogue and the scenarios, they were just excellently written, and they made all these characters believable and likable, or, I mean, honestly, in some cases with certain characters, unlikable, if that was what the character's intent was to be. And I mean, Ubisoft has just been greatly supporting this game, man. Just a steady stream of amazing content, some free, some you have to purchase. The Lost Tales of Greece concept that I was talking about earlier, they've been isolated stories, which usually take only about an hour or two each to finish. And they typically release every few weeks. I've been thoroughly enjoying those. And I will discuss in detail their first major episodic DLC that I referenced, Legacy of the First Blade, in a future Hulking Yoda's Contents of Seasons Past episode, to let you guys really know in detail what I thought of that. They've been releasing new costume packs, horse mount skins, weapons, ship skins, crew skins. I mean, all kinds of stuff, man. Free reward items that you can unlock by doing challenges if you're a member of the Ubisoft Club. Just so much stuff. There's just so much content, and it's, again, consistent. They are constantly adding new content for you. Ultimately, all in all, Odyssey is easily my favorite Assassin's Creed game, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. It has everything, and I mean everything that I want personally in a game, and it never disappointed me from start to finish, ever. I had a ton of fun discussing my Odyssey the whole way through with my wife, as well as with Mike, obviously. We all three had a very, very different but equally amazing adventure in each one of our playthroughs. And it was just really cool to hear how each one of us played and approached different scenarios differently. And it just goes to show how amazing of a job that Ubisoft did with this entry. And it gives me great hope and excitement for what we can expect from this franchise in the future. And while I still hope that Ubisoft does not surprise us with a brand new Assassin's Creed 200 hours long at E3 this year, like they did last year with Odyssey, I still am excited for the next entry, and hopefully that will be coming in 2020. But ultimately, those are my final thoughts on the game in a roundup kind of way. Any more detail on any kind of specific areas, don't hesitate to listen to our first 22 with day 2 episode if you haven't listened to it already. But ultimately, this is a review, so I'm going to give it my final score. And for me personally, my final score that I will give Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
A 10? Like like TEN?
Yeah, TEN, man.
Like a perfect score.
Perfect score. I'm not saying it's a perfect game, because kind of how you referenced with RE2, there is no such thing. But for, like I said, it's everything that I want out of a game, man. Everything I look for, and it was just an amazing experience from beginning to end. And I feel it's very deserving of just like, yo, it's a 10. You have got to play this. You got to play it. Everybody needs to play it.
Is there, if you had to pick, if you had to, I don't know, man, call over to your ship, get in your ship, sing some chanty songs, going over the sea, jumping off the bow of the ship, swimming to the bottom of the ocean to find one thing that you don't like about the game, one minute detail you would change, what would it be? Give the listener something to sink their teeth into. Just tell them one dirty little secret that Ubisoft put into this game. One thing you're just like, man, this irritates the piss out of me.
I would say, even though I think they've improved it over the past couple of games, I would say that for me, I still think there needs to be some minimal improvement on the traversal systems, man. Like when you're trying to climb the sides of mountains, or even sometimes, like if you're trying to climb the side of a building and he's just, or she is just running up and just falling, running up and falling. Like you have to hit it in that sweet spot, and that just, the collision detection and the recognition between the pressing the button to, you know, initiate the run up the wall run, and the ability of the, you know, game and the computer sense of it to read that and respond accurately. I don't know. There's just a couple things there with the, I would say, the traversal system that I would that would be the only thing that I would probably think of when I think of anything that I was like as I was playing through.
Fair. I'm gonna break mine down a little bit, to be honest with you. This is a very long game, but I think it's one of those things that I discussed probably with Odyssey on that. It's what you want out of the game. You could probably fly through this game and, you know, hit the story, hit the high points in probably about, what, 30, maybe 40 hours, you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just going straight through the high points, I could see that.
I know for me, I played through the game. I did everything that I could possibly do when I stopped playing this game. And I'm talking about as far as all the DLC that had dropped at the time, the Cosmos, going to the Coliseum, fighting everybody, finding all the water locations. And it's, I think I clocked in. It was definitely under 100 hours, but it was like 96, 97 hours, somewhere in there. And then, you know, to that point, Bo, you know, put in, you know, what'd you say, 200 and something hours into the game?
Correct.
So, I mean, it is what you want out of the game. However, I've stated this before, I love the first Assassin's Creed, the very original one, and I have not loved an Assassin's Creed since that one until I played Odyssey. This game is phenomenal. It caught me from the very beginning. I think they did a great job of having that first island kind of be like its standalone thing. It didn't feel like a tutorial, but it kind of gave you a taste of what the game is going to be, and it kind of like sunk your teeth into it then and just never let go. The cool thing that I liked about this game is there's so much to this game. There's so many different things you can do and so many different ways you can experience this game that if you ever get sick of the game or close to getting sick of the game, just go do something else because there's so much to do in this game. It kind of reminds me of like the early days of GTA. It's just like, oh my goodness, I can go bowl in this game. I can go steal a car. I can go have a, time with a hooker. Like there's just so much to do in this game between the relationships of that you build with the people to the side quests to the I mean, dude, you could probably spend 400 or 500 hours just exploring the underwater sea in this game. It's just so massive. And it's just.
I want you to tell the listeners how you explained it to me, what you did, the style or the approach that you took as you were playing it. When you were kind of going back to what you had said about how, hey, you can play and do this, but if you get tired of doing that, hey, just go over here and do this. So, do you remember the phrasing that you used?
I remember. I think the key points that I think you wanted me to. You're probably referring to. When I kind of got into this game, I started off trying to, as I stated, you start off on this one particular island, and you're kind of secluded to that island. But once you get off that island, you are technically free to go anywhere. Now, as anybody who's played Origins knows that the maps are segregated, and it kind of tells you, hey, you should probably be this level. It's kind of like a recommendation. So I started off trying to do everything that I could in that one particular area before. Typically, through natural progression, you might be like halfway through that area and it unlocks a second area or a third area or a place that you can feel comfortable going to. So when I first started off playing the game, I was trying to do everything. And honestly, just to be honest with you, I got bored. I started getting bored with it. Nothing to fault of the game, but just doing all that exploring. So I would go do a story mission. And the story was so good. I mean, so good. That it took everything I had not to go through it. But I decided, all right, I'm going to go to the next level. And I kind of used the story as like almost an IV, just kind of like give me a little drip of it, just to kind of keep me going. So what I mean by that is I would do like an area or two, and I would kind of start to wean on the game a little bit, and then I would go back to the story, and it would just like drip. It was like that morphine drip right back into the game and just like suck you right back into it. And that rejuvenated me to like go back and, let me explore this and do this. And then guess what? I'd kind of get wean a little bit. Boom, IV drop, morphine. But then I started towards the end of the game, I would start doing like, hey man, today I'm just going to hit the high seas. I'm going to spend 3 or 4 hours just doing some ship battles, finding some underwater locations. I mean, it's just so crazy. But yeah, man. So I guess kind of wrapping this up, the graphics are amazing. I kind of used it as anybody who's listened to this podcast kind of used it as the bar, if you will. And I still feel that way. This game does look amazing, especially with 4K HDR. Are there better looking games? Yeah, honestly. But when you think about the vast size of this game and there's no loading screens. Once the game loads, I mean, does it ever load again?
Nope.
I mean,
not unless you fast travel.
Yeah, it's all there for you, man. The problems I've had with naval combat in the past is gone. I think it's real sharp. The leveling system is great. It's not too slow. It's not too fast. A lot of people have had issues with where the enemies kind of like level with you.
Oh, the level scaling.
The level scaling. I personally, honestly, never really had an issue with it. I thought that the reward and time that went into leveling up was on par. I loved, as Bo said, the cosmos. And that's kind of where I'm getting at. There's so much to do in here. Like, if you want to hit some side stories, I mean, just be hit with some real, like, life decisions. Like, oh, my goodness, they're going to kill my daughter because she's got the plague. What do you do? Like, what do you honestly do? Because what you decide has effect on the game. And that's so crazy to me. But then you have the cosmos, where you're trying to find and unmask these people and kill them. Some of them you just find naturally by exploring the game. Some of them you just kill trying to take over a fort. And then you have these cosmos who are just on the sea, these, ships. And you got the Colosseum. I mean, this game is just so massive. It's just, it really, and the only way you can really describe it, man, is it's a masterpiece. The sound is top notch. You got these guys singing songs, while you're on the high seas. The story is phenomenal. The story never lets go. I mean, it's great from beginning to end. I mean, everything about the game is top notch. And honestly, man, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this. I really hate to do this. It's not going to get a double 10.
Okay.
Are you going to be mad at me?
Nah, man, I want your honest review and your honest opinion. I don't want you to do it just because we want to get a double 10.
I hope everybody has 911 like dialed in their phone ready to go. Because I'm going to give this game an 11 out of 10, mother.
Oh, wow.
Now, yeah, this game definitely gets the double 10, man. I would...
Woo!
I mean, you got to think. So I want to put this in clear perspective for people because I don't think that everybody quite understands this picture. Number one, again, I have been very vocal about it on this podcast that I've never been an Assassin's Creed fan outside of the first one. And I was so hyped for that one. And I still love that game. I still go back and play it on my Xbox One X. That's number one. Number two, I do not put 40 plus hours into games.
This is true, listeners.
I mean, in the history of me and Bo knowing each other, there may be 3 games that I've put in 70 plus hours into, and 2 of those games are on the Xbox One X.
Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Is the other one.
Yeah, I mean, it's Final Fantasy 15, Assassin's Creed, and I want to say maybe Elder Scrolls. Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, Skyrim.
It just doesn't. Well, so I guess all 3 of them are on the Xbox. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, but the thing is that for someone who doesn't normally put that amount of time, I think that's your point, is you're saying that for you to have put that amount of time into a single game really says something about that game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not something I do because I mean, honestly, typically most games I kind of beat in that time frame, and then the other half of them I get bored with them, so I just kind of do the main story and go on. But that just is a testament to how perfect this game is. I know I've stated that no game is perfect, but I mean, it's just that gripping of a game. It's just, I always look at gaming as a work of art, and this truly is a work of art. This game is amazing. And for me to be willing to sit down and spend 100 hours into this game, and guess what? What's the other thing I was complaining about on this show? I never touched DLC. Guess who went and played the DLC? This guy. So,
yeah, I got to say that was one of the biggest surprises ever. The day that you showed me the screenshot showing that you had just purchased the season pass for it, I was like, oh wow, this is real. This is legit, man.
Right? It's just odd. It just doesn't.
And not only that, it's not just that you didn't. It's not only that you just purchased it. You actually played the DLC as it was releasing there at the beginning. It was just like, wow, this is insane, man. Mike is playing DLC.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm probably going to go back and play the rest of it, which is insane for me to say, but it's just, again, a testament to how good this game is. Now, I asked you this question, so I think it's fair that I answer the question as well, which is if I had to get in my boat, go to the high seas, jump off the piers, run to the bottom, and find that one thing, one problem with the game, if you will. And I actually got 2 very minor things that I would change in a perfect world. And one of those things is that initial load screen is a bear.
I
don't know.
Yeah, it is a lengthy one.
But in all fairness, it's the only one that you experience, really. The second one is, and I know you're going to find this one funny because this has literally brought me to swearing. And it's very funny. It shouldn't be an issue, but they released the achievements before the actual DLC.
Yeah.
So I like to get 100% in things, and when I look at my achievement list, and I don't have an 100% because I legitimately cannot do the achievements because the content is not out yet. It is blowing my mind. Like, why are you telling me that there's these 3 achievements worth 90 gold that I cannot even achieve because you haven't released it? That is insane to me. That is like me going to my Xbox Live right now and seeing 1,000 gold for Control, a game that comes out in August. That I mean, it's just insane. So that's it's very frustrating to me, but it has literally nothing to do with the game, but it does frustrate the hell out of me.
Now, I have a question for you about that loading screen. Now, I don't know if you ever noticed this. I know we never talked about it, so I don't think that you did, but I just noticed this for the first time, no lie, tonight. I was actually playing it earlier, and that loading screen that you're talking about, you remember the loading screen? It shows the pyramid that's like at the heart of the cult of Cosmos.
Yes.
Okay. So for the first time today, I really paid attention to, and it clicked with me. On the floor, lying on the ground all around that are bloody masks. The cult of Cosmos listeners wear masks. And it clicked with me. Holy crap. I wonder if that is all the cult members that you've killed in the cult of Cosmos. And I wonder if throughout the game as you're playing, because I don't remember that being that many at the beginning of the game. So I wonder if as you're killing cult members throughout the course of the game, the amount of bloody masks increases on the loading screen. And I think that I'm pretty spot on. I think I'm accurate on that, man. And if so, that is awesome. I'm sorry. Maybe you don't think so, but I thought that. I was like, what? If that's the case, that's actually really cool, man.
I actually had not noticed that, to be honest with you, because in all fairness, man, after that first couple load screens, I was usually playing on my phone while it loaded.
Well, I mean, I've done that a lot too. And so I think that might have been also the reason why that I also maybe missed it. And then today, I mean, it's the first time I played the game in probably a month or so. And I wasn't playing on my phone. I was looking at the screen. And it just kind of, for whatever reason, really stood out to me, those bloody masks. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't really remember it being this full. What? I wonder if, and so, yeah, I think so, man. I think that's what they did. So I mean, I personally think that's really cool. And the cool thing about it is it's extremely subtle. Like they don't put it in your face or point it out to you. It's just kind of there. And like with me, with today, it was just like, I just happened like almost like a double take. It's like, wait a minute, what? And sure enough, that's awesome, man. I think that's what I'm saying, man. What we're saying, the little details, man. Well, I mean, there you have it, guys. I mean, that is awesome.
I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Actually, I got several last questions for you. Number one is playing the Assassin's Creed 3 remaster considered playing the DLC for contents of both seasons, contents of Hulk and Yoda seasons past?
Oh, wow. I mean, it is part of the season pass, but you can also get it, as like its own standalone release. So I mean, I personally, in my head, when I think of it, I don't really consider it contents of seasons past. I kind of consider it as its own game.
And finally, my last question is, the next Assassin's Creed, it has been rumored to feature both a male and female protagonist again. Do you think that you will switch sides on them?
To be honest with you, I don't think so. And the reason why is because of how satisfied I was that I chose Alexios in Odyssey as I was playing through the game. And the fact that I can kind of cheat in a way, if you will, because my wife, I'm sure, after how much she loved Odyssey, is going to play the next one. And obviously, I'm sure she will probably play through as the female protagonist. So therefore, we can kind of talk to each other and get differences. And same thing with you. I have two people that I can kind of cheat off of, if you will, because you typically, when given the option, you'll play as a female. So I'll probably play as Alexios. Whoever the male protagonist is, I'll probably still stick with playing as the male. How about you? Are you gonna still sticking with the female?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I did want to ask if you had any final details or any final thoughts or words you wanted to say as far as the ship combat, because I knew that was really special to you in this game.
I will say that, to be honest with you, in the very beginning, I hated it, as I always have. But I think as the game kind of opens up and you kind of understand the battle, one, and number two, more importantly, as you upgrade your ship, and you can actually compete with people, it's a blast. It really is, because there's a lot of different techniques you can use. There's a lot of different strategies you can use. Plus, to be honest with you, I mean, if you're being fair with it, I mean, it's a good way to get resources as far as wood and money. And to be honest with you, in general, I actually fell in love with exploring the world. And to fully appreciate and explore the world, you need to embrace the ship.
Right.
Now, you really do. It's kind of cool if you really think about it. They did have it set it up where you really don't technically have to fight in a lot of the ship battles. I mean, you can pretty easily evade people.
Right.
So I think it's nice that they kind of leave it up to the user. But no, man, I definitely embrace the ship battles. And it's kind of funny because you, myself, and your wife, Aubrey, were all on the Ubisoft app where we could kind of track each other, what we're doing, our progress, and kind of how we played the game. And I was like way far above you guys as far as ship battles, to the point that I was almost like disgusted with you guys. If you remember, I was like, why are you guys not fighting ships? Matter of fact, I'm hoping I can pull it up here here shortly to see how many I ended up having. I mean, did you have anything to say on the ship battles?
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the ship battles, man. I mean, I feel like it's as far as the franchise is concerned, I feel like it's only gotten better with each successive entry. They were first introduced in AC3, and I thought they were solid then, and I really enjoyed them then. And then with AC4 Black Flag, obviously, it was a huge main component to the game, being that you were playing as a pirate, and I loved them in Black Flag. And then they went away until just a few missions in Origins. But then they came back in a big way as a huge main component of the game for Odyssey. And I feel like Odyssey was the absolute ultimate gameplay experience as far as the ship battles and exploration are concerned with the ship, and ship management and upgrades and all that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. By no means did I go after as many ships as you did, but I do think I broke the triple digit mark eventually.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I got the stats right in front of me, sir. So
Okay.
for the record, let's let everybody hear it. How many hours did you put into the game? Because I'm gonna quote the Ubisoft one, because I think there's a small discrepancy between the actual time for you and the Ubisoft.
Well, as of the time that I was doing the time adding summary, that was 240, but then I've also played almost 4 hours earlier today, and I think even a few more hours since also when I had that summary of time. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say ultimately at this point, I would say I've probably put over 250 hours in.
Okay, well, I actually feel a lot more confident than this than I thought, because it does say you've played 239 hours, and I don't know if you ever experienced this. Ubisoft's a little bit behind, so that's probably pretty accurate. So your wife put in an ungodly amount of time in this game. She is at 279 hours.
Wow.
And it looks like after I've gone back and played some more, I'm at 112.
Wow.
Yes, but let's go to these ship kills here real quick, my man.
All right.
So your wife, who's put the most amount of time into this game, how many ships do you think she put to the bottom of that sea?
I'm going to go with somewhere in like the 70-80 range, maybe.
Okay, that's fair, because last time I checked, I could have sworn she was like in the 30s. But she's at 98.
Wow, she's right there, that triple digit mark.
Yes, so you got to think about it this way. So at 300 hours, she's killed 100 ships. So every 3 hours, she blew up a ship.
Right.
You did 138, which is a pretty decent amount. And then I was at 246, and I played a third of the time of your wife, and I put destroyed 3 times as many ships. So when I say that it's really your choice, it is really your choice. I don't know what your wife hated about the ship battles, but apparently she did not enjoy them.
Yeah, no, she openly admitted that was not. She grew to like them more as she played more, but that was not her one of her preferred methods of gameplay.
Absolutely. The last thing I had for you, man, honestly, was that the camera mode in this game was top notch.
Oh yeah, man, photo mode was awesome in this game, and it's even more awesome now because in one of the most recent updates, they actually added to where you can mess around and put the placement of the logo. Also, they added borders and all kinds of different cool things, man, that they did not have throughout that entire 240 initial hours that I was playing. Which I would have loved to have, because if you guys remember, I think that in our awards show, I gave the nod or the edge to Shadow of the Tomb Raider's photo mode because it had the logos and the borders. And the only other thing that it still has over Odyssey now is actually, you know what? I think they might have added in poses and facial expression. So I don't know that it would have anything over Odyssey now. And at the end of the day, I like the ability of movement and the range of movement and the photo mode for Odyssey over Tomb Raider. So it might actually now, I mean, obviously I'm not going to, rescind what I said back then, because at that point in time that was accurate. But yeah, I would say if we were to do it like now with those added features, Odyssey would probably take the edge, man.
All right, my guy. Anything else you have?
No. I just want to say that I think it's awesome that it did get our first, double 10. And I can't recommend enough to you listeners out there to give the game a shot and play it. Even if you gave up on Assassin's Creed a few years ago, this is a lot different. So, love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Definitely, when it comes down to a download, rent, or delete, absolutely, this is a download for me. How about you, Mike?
I mean, no question asked, man. Download.
All right, man. Well, I think that's all I got. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
All right, man. Well, we finally did it after months of playing through the game, and after a few months since finishing the game and playing through DLC, we have finally been able to put together a review, an official review, Day 2 update review for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, thank you to everybody who listened.
Really makes you think, how do these other publications put out a review the same week the game comes out? Like, how do they spend 300 hours into this game?
Yeah, well, I think the thing is like you said, that if you just kind of focus on the main story, they 30, 40 hours. So you think if their job is a 40-hour or 50-hour a week job, they probably just play it at work and play through the main story and maybe do a little side stuff here or there. But guaranteed, there's no way that they do, every nook and cranny, or most every nook and cranny like we all, like the three of us, me, you, and Aubrey did. So
you're trying to tell me that they're cheating out our listeners?
Oh yeah, brother.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, if you want the full, most real, most in-depth information, there ain't no better place to get it than Day 2 update. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna unsheath my hidden blade, and appreciate all you guys listening. Pull up my cowl, my hood. Until next time, your Day 2 update will continue to download.